When I left my husband after a 22-year marriage and being with him for 25 years, the first phone call I made the next day was call my psychologist. And I remember I said to her, I said, Naomi, one of the things that I want to work on is what was my part in this breakup? And more importantly, what can I do to fix myself? Because I don't want to attract the same kind of man. I mean, after all, second marriages, the divorce rate is at 75%. So the reason that occurs is because people, when they get a divorce, they don't change. They think the problem is him, and therefore they end up attracting the same kind of person.
So she's like taking accountability, but then she's also not. She's saying, how can I change so I don't attract that type of guy? So she's obviously talking about her marriage that just split up, and here she is saying it's that I need to avoid that type of guy. So how can I change myself to then not attract that guy? So it's like she's taking accountability, but not really. Should be asking, hey, from your perspective, psychologist, where did I go wrong in this marriage? Like, why is it that it didn't work out? What are some things that I did to destroy this relationship? That's not what she's saying. She's saying, how can I don't know, change what type of guy I'm attracting? So is there a way, psychologist, that I can change who I am to where I won't attract the type of guy that was at fault in my last marriage? Because, I mean, that's what she's saying. She's saying it was him. I need to avoid that type of guy because that type of guy fucks up marriages.
They may look different, they may act different, they may be different, but inside they're the same. And that's why the second divorce rate is 75% higher. And I made sure that that wasn't going to be me in that statistic. So know thyself.
So I was speaking with a girlfriend the other day about divorce, and she was asking me, when was one of the first signs that I knew something was wrong with my marriage? And I have this memory so heavily imprinted on my brain. I can still feel it to this day, and it sounds so weird. It was the middle of the night, we were both asleep, and in the middle of the night, my ex, while he was asleep, grabbed me from behind for a spoon hug in bed. It was like one of those really good big bear hugs in bed. And that sent me like electricity through my body. I have never in that marriage experienced such joy than when he hugged me in that moment. And he was asleep and he wasn't doing it intentionally. And that joy and elation carried me through the week. I was walking on cloud 9 because of that hug. And I kept thinking about it, and I started thinking, like, in hindsight, obviously, why am I so excited about a simple hug when he was unconscious? That's how little I had the affection that I needed. And it kind of clicked. I was like, that tiny little absolute nothing moment ended up being the best thing in my marriage that week. And that incident is what made me start kind of taking inventory of my relationship and taking a really hard look at it and realizing all the holes that were in my marriage. Okay, calm down. I did not divorce him because of the hug. It was years after that we ended up getting divorced. But it was just one of those things that kind of started getting my brain thinking. We all kind of have those dominant moments, don't we? Where something happens that makes us start thinking about all of these other things that we need to be thinking about. Like you've woken up and you can now actually see your relationship for what it is. Anyways, it's such a random moment, but I've never forgotten that feeling. And it's different for everyone. Everyone has one of those first aha moments, and it's usually something really small.
Want to know what nobody tells you about divorce? Is that once you get married and then you procreate and then you get divorced, that human will be in your life forever because you procreated with them.
No shit.
And then you get married again, and now that human will be in your new spouse's life forever because you procreated with them. No one tells you about that.
No, it's kind of common sense, right?
I'm telling you now.
What are the signs that the relationship isn't worth fighting for? I'll tell you the biggest sign. And I learned this when I watched this man who's a divorce attorney, talks about his cases and what he thinks about marriage, what he thinks has the chance of working out versus what didn't work out. And he asked the woman, because he was representing her, and said, what was the moment that you realized that the relationship was done? She said that he, every morning, would always make sure that her granola was refilled. Not even have to ask and just always refill it for her, right? He'd write these little post-its too for her when he was leaving. Even after all these fighting, he'd still do it. The day she knew that the relationship was over was when he stopped filling the granola, stopped doing the letters, because he stopped caring. The moment you realize the relationship isn't worth fighting for is when you realize that that person just doesn't care. You're just tired, you give up. It's the giving up part. She realized in that moment that he just didn't have anything left in him to keep the relationship going.
So you gave up then. So she gave up. Unbelievable, dude. Oh my God. Terrible. Oh, Jesus. You stopped giving me granola. You stopped leaving me notes. Well, did you communicated that to him, right? Like you told him. You told him that bothered you, right? So let me get this straight. You thought, oh, he's giving up because he's no longer refilling my granola. So then you actually give up. No, okay, so you thought he gave up because your granola wasn't filled up and he wasn't writing you letters. So then you actually gave up. You actually decided, you know what? This ends here.
When does the grieving process stop after divorce? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Now, I'm a believer that grief is a human experience and that we can't ever control when it starts, when it stops, and if it ever really goes away. It's just part of life. And I even have moments, even though I'm so freaking glad that I got divorced, like I have not regretted it one day in my life. The only thing I regretted was not leaving sooner. And you know what? If you got left, different side of the coin, but same thing, the grief. It still hits me from time to time. And it's not like I get overly sad. It's just kind of like a ping that hits my heart. And I just kind of feel like, oh, you know, like there's a weight to it. Or like I'll feel like guilty for something that my kids are experiencing and I can't fix it. And
There it is. She feels guilty for something that her kids are experiencing, probably because of her divorce. And here's the thing. This is one of the main reasons why so many modern women are not marriage material. This is why they don't see things out. This is why they initiate the divorce. And it's because there isn't this idea of them having a duty to that family now, to their children, or to that man to stick it out. The vows might as well not be there. And I know that in some marriages, they aren't. Like some weddings, they don't choose to do the vows. So these women, they just don't have any sort of duty. There's this idea of them having a duty, something they're supposed to do, even though they may not feel like doing it. It may not feel good. It may not align with their flighty emotions. That's what duty is that's what duty is for. You don't have to feel good about it. You don't constantly have to be happy. And this is the problem with the current woman. She's been hammered with feminist propaganda since she was alive. This idea of them having any sort of standard or expectation applied to them, they believe that is oppressive, and so it's been rejected. And people around them realize this is how they perceive it, and so they don't apply it to them. Because they'll freak out, lash out, be emotional, call you oppressive, call you some name, shame you in some way. And so we know that we have to handle, most people understand that when you're speaking with these modern women, you have to handle them with like kitty gloves, or else they're going to get offended and cry. They're very, very fragile. Emotionally, physically, mentally. You just can't really apply any sort of standard to them. So this is why the idea of them having a duty, them sticking something out, it's so foreign, because it truly is foreign. It's a foreign idea to them because it just isn't something that they've heard their whole life, their entire upbringing. However, men have not really had that same idea given to them. It's men are still held to gender roles. Men are still expected to be gentlemen. But women expected to be ladies. No, men still have the expectation of duty. They still have duties They're still expected to put people before them, women and children before them. So when it comes to a family, they're going to put other people's happiness above their own. But modern women are not doing that. They're just not. Look at the numbers. It shows. They're flighty. They're not really built for long-term commitments anymore. So, and then, and they'll say, oh, well, the reason why women are initiating divorce is so much, it's because of the men. But the fact of the matter is that's not true. You can look at lesbian relationships. They break up at a very high rate. And male homosexual relationships, they're at the lowest. So when a woman is involved, it's like, yeah, relationships are going to end more because it's that lack of duty. They don't believe in that. They don't believe they have duties. They get to do whatever makes them feel good at all costs. And they reserve the right to leave you, split up your family, subject the children to a lower standard of living, subject the children to unnecessary obstacles, subject the children to more of a emotional turmoil. Yeah, it's really quite devastating, man.
Because of the divorce, I could just blame myself sometimes.
But I won't do
that. And it happens still 7 years later. And the reason I'm telling you this is because, listen, grief is grief. Starting over is starting over. Loss is loss. And you can't decide when that shuts off. Because you hit certain times where you're just like, this sucks. Or you see your kids struggling, or you're reminded of something with your ex, or I don't fucking know. It's just life, right? So the goal isn't really to make the grief go away. The goal is to navigate it and walk in it and recognize hey, grief, I see you. And then put it away,
No one tells you when you get divorced.
You know what that's called? Cope.
That you're going to feel like you're grieving a death. And not just a death of a person.
God, this is ridiculous. The amount of women talking about divorce. Jesus, you guys are just not. You wouldn't know commitment if it slapped you upside the face.
The death of shared dreams and a shared future and a house and a car and a boat. All these things you're getting ready to potentially lose, they're gone. And that feeling of loss can be overwhelming and take a while to get over and process. And it can hit you at the craziest time. So if you're feeling like you are grieving a death after your divorce, you're normal. You gotta feel your way through it, experience all the emotions, but know that there is a brighter future ahead and a new path for you to walk.
Yeah, you don't know that though. You're just you're teaching these women how to cope. Maybe teach them about devotion.
After you've taken adequate time to heal, which is different for everyone, it's important not to get stuck and start taking steps forward. Talking to someone like a divorce coach like me or their
A divorce coach? What the is that?
can help you get back on your path.
If she knew there was something wrong with her that played a part in the breakdown of her marriage.
Let's read some of these comments here. I've never heard of a divorce coach. What is that? What is that? A divorce coach? What? So what? I mean, unbelievable. Oh, Jesus. A divorce coach. What next? Yeah, I'm sitting here kind of thinking. There it is. It wasn't on screen. A divorce coach. What next? Yeah, am I the only one who thinks that's a strange title? A divorce coach? I would assume that means coaching women through their divorce. I'll tell you what, that must be pretty lucrative. If you're looking for a way to make money, divorce coach, you're not going to run out of clients. That's for sure. The granola one. The woman ruined the relationship and blamed the man for giving up. She made it impossible to keep caring. Well, man, unbelievable. Cell phones plus social media plus women equals 90% divorce rate. Well, I would just really pin it down to just feminism. Feminism and everything tangential to that. That's the real culprit. Feminism. Feminism. Don't forget it. Not to mention, this video will be posted here soon, so it's probably still relevant, but the news of the school, what's the word? How should I disguise this? The news of the individual who went into the school and caused havoc recently in Wisconsin, I believe, was a raging feminist. We're actually starting to see that leftist ideology it's scary, and it's evil, and it's violent. But that's probably where I have to end it with that sort of speaking. Otherwise, the video might get taken down or whatnot. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. So if you enjoyed that, I'd appreciate a like and a subscription. And I'll see you next time.